All right, so today I'm going to do something just a little bit different than my normal content. Obviously, the draft isn't until probably like another month and a half from recording this video, but I like to get started a little early on these. It's a little fun, and obviously, the free agency period is only a couple days away, and so this entire draft, thing could go completely different depending on who signs who. But just going off of right now, I'm going to do this first round mock draft for every NFL team in the first round. And keep in mind, too, this is not what I think should happen, but this is more, what I think is going to happen if the teams were stuck like this. Obviously, free agency is going to start and players are going to sign with other teams, and that's going to switch the needs for the draft. So we'll see what happens. But as it stands right now, I'm going to go ahead and start off with the Tennessee Titans here, who I'll say this. What they should do versus what they are going to do are two completely different things. What I believe they should do is move on from Will Levis because I'm sorry. I know it's only been, a year and a half now of Will Levis. I don't believe in him one bit. I don't think he's shown enough in the year and a half that he started. Aside from his very first game where he threw for 4 touchdowns, I believe against the Falcons. That was a really good game, but other than that, I really haven't seen much from Will Levis to make me, want to say as a Titans fan, for example, to be like, we should build around Will Levis. But I don't think the Titans are, going to do that. And I think they stick here with the first overall pick. I don't think they trade out of it. I know I'm hearing the Giants talking about trading up to number 1 to grab maybe a Cam Ward, but I don't think that's going to happen. And by the way, we're not going to do any trades in this mock draft. It's just going to be just straight across the board with no trades. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Every single season there's trades. But going for my first pick here, I think they go best player available, and the best player in this draft, far and away, is Abdul Carter. An absolute beast at Penn State. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, probably a defensive player of the year. My second choice being James Pierce Jr., which we'll get into later. But Abdul Carter, number 1 overall. They should take a quarterback. They should take Cam Ward. If not, they should trade out of it. I don't think they should just stick with Carter, but that is the Titans. I think this is what they'll do. Cleveland Browns. Yikes. I mean, after handing that Deshaun Watson contract or trading for him in the first place, what was it, like 3 first-round picks I think they gave up for him? They have not been good since. Watson, man, I don't understand what happened to him after being a phenom with the Texans. And, man, after his rookie season, I thought he was going to be a top 5 quarterback in no time. What a generational fall-off. And then obviously the whole allegations against him, not a good combination. And I think really the Browns are just ready to move on from that. That's just that terrible contract. I don't think they'll release him this season or whatever. I don't even think he plays this season. But either way, man, Cam Ward's the move. Take the best quarterback, cut your losses with Deshaun Watson, keep him for however long you got to keep him, on the roster, whatever, so you don't eat up a ton of dead cap. But it's time to bring in a new guy. Cam Ward, best quarterback in the draft. We move on. All right. Now, this is going to be a tricky one with the New York Giants because I hear they're going after Aaron Rodgers. They could also be going after Sam Darnold. So we'll see with that. I don't think they're going to want any more bridges at QB. Daniel Jones has been the quarterback since, 2018, 2019? I forgot what year they drafted Daniel Jones. But they rolled with him for a while. They've had pretty bad quarterback play ever since maybe the prime days of Eli Manning. I think they're done with that. And regardless of what people may think about Shedeur Sanders, and especially, me, I'm not the biggest fan of Shedeur Sanders. I think they want just a guy who kind of brings them that ceiling of having a franchise quarterback. And if Shedeur Sanders turns out to be, well, who cares if you draft him at 3? He probably isn't worth the 3rd overall pick. But the Giants need a quarterback. First and foremost, and Malik Neighbors needs a quarterback too. They had Saquon. They should have kept Saquon and drafted Malik Neighbors. They would have had, a running back and a wide receiver, and then you would have Shedeur Sanders into the mix, make his life a little easier. But the Giants are going to be the Giants, and they're going to make stupid moves pretty much every year. So it is what it is. The New England Patriots are also in a really weird situation. I'm pretty sure Patriots fans are upset because, T. Higgins was franchise tagged a second time, which I honestly didn't see coming. I completely forgot that they even franchise tagged him at all in the first place. And for them to do that a second time was terrible. And Patriots fans are most definitely upset because they needed him in free agency to go ahead and address their wide receivers because they are down bad at wide receiver. And I think here you could go one of two directions. You could go offensive line because their offensive line was terrible. You can go ahead and address receiver here for Drake May because Drake May did do really good, all things considered, for his rookie year. And I think he's going to be a star. I think they go ahead and they take wide receivers probably in the later rounds or in free agency. I don't think they go wide receiver with the number 4 overall pick. I don't think McMillan is that great at number 4. I don't think he would want to reach all the way to 4. Forward wide receiver, and in this league is really offensive line driven. I think they go ahead and actually take Will Campbell. And as much as I don't want them to as a Bears fan because I want him as a Bear, I really think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to want to shore up their offensive line before anything. They go ahead and address receiver in the later rounds or, in free agency, maybe even next year. Who knows? But I think they go ahead and take Will Campbell there. The Jags are also an interesting one because they already have their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And I know he hasn't been doing that great, but I doubt they move on from him. I know there was people talking about trading him. I don't think that's going to happen either. But Jacksonville can go a number of directions here. Obviously, they have 2 solid edge players. Nothing crazy. They don't have a TJ Watt, but they do have a Josh Allen Hines. And they have a Trayvon Walker, who former first overall pick. Obviously, they should have gone Aiden Hutchinson, but he's turning out to be really solid. He's improving year by year. Now, here's the thing I'm at. Best player available on this board, arguably, is between Travis Hunter and Mason Graham. I don't think, hear me out, I don't think they go Mason Graham here because of the simple fact that they already have 2 edge rushers. I think they would probably want to address that in free agency and go ahead and get a corner, an elite corner, similar to when they had Jalen Ramsey. And when they did draft Jalen Ramsey, they had a really solid defense. And they didn't have a Mason Graham level prospect on their defensive line. They went ahead and grabbed Jalen Ramsey, and they had themselves a really good corner. On top of that, they also need receiver help, and Travis Hunter happens to also play receiver as well. So I do think they go Travis Hunter here. Maybe they go Mason Graham. Honestly, for me, it's a toss-up. They can't go wrong with Travis Hunter and Mason Graham. They both honestly fill positions of need. But I think Travis Hunter, sort of helping out that secondary, that really weak secondary that they have. I think they're fine on the defensive line, and they also need receiver help. I don't think Travis Hunter is going to play both receiver and cornerback full time, but he can definitely come in as a receiver at some point and sort of bring in a little boost to the offense. Now for the Las Vegas Raiders, who just traded for Geno Smith, which I did not see that coming at all, but they did it. I know they wanted to go after Russell Wilson and maybe another quarterback, maybe Sam Darnold. I think they wanted to go after a veteran quarterback, and they did, but it wasn't through a free agency. It was through a trade. So Geno Smith is now officially, well, not officially technically, but he is a Las Vegas Raider. Now, they could go a number of directions here. Obviously, you can go ahead and draft a receiver to give, Geno Smith a chance with, not just Jacoby Myers. But once again, I don't think that McMillan is worth a sort of top 6 pick. What they need, and they actually have a solid offensive line, they need a run game. And I think here, and as much as I would want Genty as a Bear, unfortunately, I do think that the Raiders, I don't know, I just had a brain fart there, but I do think that the Raiders go ahead and select Ashton Genty with the 6th overall pick. Kind of a reach at running back, but Genty's that good. He would provide the spark for a team that already has a quarterback, and they can go ahead and maybe grab a receiver in free agency or in a draft, sort of similar to what the Patriots would most likely do. But I think it goes like that. The Jets. I don't think they roll with Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback, but you also don't have another quarterback in this draft that I don't think the Jets will view as high as Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I think if either of those guys made it to them, they'd probably take them because I don't think they want to roll with Tyrod Taylor. But when you take a look at this team, obviously there's a need at quarterback. Tyrod Taylor is not the future of their franchise, but they have a solid defense. They always do. They have Sauce Gardner, they have Quinnen Williams, and a few other guys in there. And so with this team, it kind of makes it difficult to sort of see where they would go with this. They could go Mason Graham, and shore up the defensive line, maybe. I know there was trade rumors with Garrett Wilson. They also, don't really have a tight end, so they could go Warren here. Honestly, I think what they're going to do here, I think they're going to go ahead and shore up their offensive line. I think they're going to take Armand Membu, who is a really good tackle, probably could play guard as well. And I think they're going to shore up that offensive line because Aaron Rodgers did not have the best time under the offensive line he had to deal with. And that's honestly what got him injured in the first place. And they don't want that for, maybe the quarterback that they draft in the second round. Or maybe they sign one in free agency. Maybe Sam Darnold goes back to being a Jet. That would be crazy. Don't think he should do that, but maybe they could. I think they shore up the offensive line, though, and give at least Tyrod Taylor or whatever quarterback in there some time to throw. And obviously for the run game, too, to sort of help out. The Carolina Panthers, man. They are a surprising team because they actually did better than I thought. Now, they ended up with, I think 4 wins on the season, but still, I think they have a future. And I think Bryce Young is actually trying out to be a solid quarterback, all things considered, with a pretty trash defense, a pretty trash team around him. And I think this is the opportunity where the Panthers can finally go ahead and address a big need, which is their defense. And taking a look at some of the edge players or defensive line players that are left at this point, obviously you could go Mason Graham here and shore up the interior. I think here, this is where it's going to be big for us. I think, and I say for the Bears here, I think they actually go James Pierce Jr. here. Now, it's another guy that I really want for the Bears, but I think they want to shore up their edge players because they have literally nobody at edge. They had Brian Burns. They got rid of him, shipped him off to New York, to the to the Giants. And, they have Derek Brown at defensive tackle, so I don't think they want to go defensive tackle just yet. And I think they want to shore up their edge, and that's where James Pierce Jr. comes in. Could it be Mike Green? Could it be any of the other Michael Williams or whatever? Sure. I just don't think so. I think they go James Pierce on this one. Saints here are a polarizing team because on one hand, they have a overhated quarterback in Derek Carr. Not obviously a top 10 quarterback anymore, but, I don't think he's bottom 5 like some people claim to be. And on top of that, they also do have a decent amount of needs on their team. Obviously, they could go, quarterback. Maybe they grab a Jackson Dart. But I doubt they do, considering they have Spencer Rattler. I think who showed some flashes. I don't think he, put on a show or anything. But when Derek Carr was out, he was solid enough. I think right here, Chris Olave too is kind of entering that sort of questionable area of his career where he's taken so many concussions, and even though he is a really solid receiver when healthy, he's kind of like the Tevin Jenkins of wide receivers, a guy who's very solid, not the best in the league. He's not a Justin Jefferson by any means, but when he's healthy, he's really good. That's the problem, though. He's never healthy. He's always getting hit in the head, always having major concussions, and he's probably going to be a free agent next year, I think. I think they drafted him 2-3 years ago. I can't be sure, but whenever he's a free agent, I think they're going to let him walk. I don't think they extend him. And I think right here is where they're going to go ahead and take best player available really for them offensively. And I think they go McMillan. I think they're going to shore up the other wide receiver spot, and they're going to go ahead and make it easier for them. So in case Chris Olave goes down, they're not completely screwed in the pass game. They at least have a rookie in there, a presumably very solid rookie, very good rookie, to go ahead and take the load off of Chris Olave and hopefully keep him from getting his 20th concussion of the season. Now the Bears here are in a very fun position, and this is honestly more wishful thinking. This is me as a Bears fan sort of setting up this draft, which I guess is kind of unfair, a little biased, but there is some logic to what I'm doing with this draft. And Mason Graham has actually been, there have been reports at least of him slipping in a draft due to his size and arm length, which I think is total BS. I think if the tape shows it, he's a good player, then he should just be a good player. The combine shouldn't really do anything. It should really just confirm some of the good things you see from players, but it shouldn't really bring anything down from the game tape. With that being said, if this is the draft board that Ryan Poles sees on draft day, and at pick 10, Mason Graham is there, and he does anything else other than select Mason Graham, he should be fired immediately. This is not up for discussion. Mason Graham is the Jalen Carter that we missed out on. This is the guy that if he falls to 10, which by the way is probably a very low chance, if we do not draft Mason Carter, Ryan Poles needs to be fired on the spot. There is literally nobody else. There is nobody else that you could draft. Look at everybody here. Cornerback, tight end. Obviously, Gentry's gone. Campbell's gone. Even our Membu's gone. Who the hell else would you take? Do not trade back. Take Mason Graham. Have yourself a good defensive line. You probably have Trey Hendrickson, Josh Sweat, or Khalil Mack. You have Montez Sweat already. Your defensive line, and Javon Dexter might add too. Your defensive line would be amazing. Our defensive line has been atrocious these past few seasons, and our run game was terrible last year. This helps out with that. Now going on to the 49ers here, who have to pay Brock Purdy at some point. Trent Williams is getting a bit older. And obviously, you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey who's always injured. But Shanahan's system is really running back friendly. So it's not like they're going to lose in the run game completely. They were really solid before Christian McCaffrey was even a 49er anyway. So right here, they could go a number of directions here. George Kittle is getting a bit older, but he is still a really solid tight end. I think he's got a few years left in him. I think here, when it comes to their defense, I think this is sort of where Robert Saleh is going to have his hand in play here. And he's going to want a guy who has a lot of athleticism. And if you guys have been paying attention to the combine, which I think is a bit overrated at times, we did see a guy named Shamar Stewart, who by all accounts is very athletic. Amazing speed and size and power for the kind of player he is. Amazing athletically. The only problem is he doesn't produce as much. I don't think that they're going to shy away from this one. I think they're going to take Shamar Stewart with pick 11. I think if anybody can turn Shamar Stewart, who only had 4.5 sacks throughout his entire college career, 1.5 per season, if anybody can turn that around and turn that into something productive at the NFL level, I think Robert Saleh can. I think Kyle Shanahan can. They've done really good when it comes to developing players, especially on defense. So I think Shamar Stewart would be a very good fit for the 49ers. Now we get to the Dallas Cowboys here, who, if Gentry would have made it to them, this would have been an easy Gentry pick. Obviously, though, they don't have a Gentry. So what do you do here? Well, what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys? When you look at last year with the Dallas Cowboys, their defense was atrocious. Even with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and a few solid names on defense, they still did very terrible. And I think here they're going to want to fix that. I think they're lacking really at the linebacker position. And what would be really a Jerry Jones move here, even though I don't think he would be that bad of a player, I think really Jerry Jones is going to go after a guy that he thinks is super athletic and a guy that could probably play both edge and outside, sort of like his own Micah Parsons. And I'm actually going to go here a little bit on a wild card here. I don't think a lot of people really have mocked Jalen Walker to the Dallas Cowboys, but he sort of offers that athletic sort of aspect of being able to play edge and off the ball. It's really going to be a matter of where he fits best. And I think Jalen Walker, there isn't a pressure of him playing either or. If he doesn't excel at being a pass rusher, a defensive end, he could be an off-the-ball linebacker. If he doesn't excel at being off-the-ball linebacker, he can be a defensive end. Either way, he sort of has athleticism to play both of those positions in a defense, and I think he'll find himself as maybe an edge, probably to replace DeMarcus Lawrence once he retires or once he's off the team. I think they still have him on the team, but I think you should be having another guy alongside Micah Parsons. Now you get to the Miami Dolphins here, and Javon Holland is supposed to be a free agent this season, or this free agency period, so I think they don't re-sign him. I mean, they haven't, so I really doubt they do. I think here they go best player available on the defense. And in my opinion, Malachi Starks is that guy. Amazing Georgia safety. And I think that sort of fills in that position where they're lacking, which is the secondary, which is also safety, because they were having Javon Holland walk. And you go ahead and restart the rookie contract. You don't have to pay a guy like Javon Holland, 15, 20 mil a year. And now you got a guy in a rookie contract that can probably play even better than he has. Now going on to the Colts here, who have a bit of a hole at wide receiver. Obviously, they have Michael Pittman. They have deep receiver rooms, but they don't have sort of that alpha number one. Michael Pittman is really good. I don't think he's amazing on that tier to where you can say he can really handle the workload of being a wide receiver one by himself. But they do have a solid room for Anthony Richardson, who is not a great quarterback in my opinion. But you got the man last year, or was it 2 years ago? No, it was last year. You might as well surround him. Obviously, you have until his rookie deal is over. I think you take Tyler Warren here. He's going to be an amazing tight end in this league. And Anthony Richardson, if he has any sort of chance of making it at the NFL level and sort of, becoming a franchise quarterback, I think you surround him with as much talent as possible. You already have Jonathan Taylor. You have a deep wide receiver room. You have a solid offensive line. Go ahead and get your tight end, Tyler Warren, and make life a lot easier for Anthony Richardson as he continues to develop. Now the Falcons are on the clock here. I think they already got their quarterback in Michael Penix. I think he's going to be a very solid quarterback. Their edge players, they could use some help at edge, so you could see them going Mike Green here. Honestly, I think their issues were more when it came to the defense. I think there were more corner issues than anything. And this is where Will Johnson is going to get drafted. I really think he's going to make it to 15 because I think Travis Hunter goes before him just because he has that athleticism to play both sides of the ball. Will Johnson, though, falling to 15 kind of reminds me of when Christian Gonzalez fell to the Patriots a couple years ago. I think Will Johnson is going to be the best corner in this draft, but I think people are going to value Travis Hunter's athleticism a lot more than Will Johnson. But I think when it's all said and done, Will Johnson will be the better corner coming out of this draft class. Then you got the Arizona Cardinals here, who could go a few different directions when it comes to, their offense / their defense. And they kind of have a similar problem as the Bears, where they sort of are lacking at the offensive line positions and the defensive line. But I don't think their offensive line is as bad as Chicago's. So I think right here, they are going to go towards the defense. And I think they're going to take a defensive lineman here. Now, in my opinion, Kenneth Grant is the better of the two, but I do think they go Walter Nolen here. Something about Walter Nolen just screams Arizona Cardinal. And a lot of people do have Walter Nolen as the second best defensive tackle in the draft. I personally have Kenneth Grant a bit higher, but I won't be mad at them if they take Walter Nolen. I think he's going to be a really good pass rusher and run stuffer. So if they want him, they can take him, right? Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals here, who, man, they need to do something with their defense. And with Trey Hendrickson requesting a trade, man, I don't know what the Bengals are doing, man. Their financial situation, the way they're handling everything is very bizarre, considering that they have, two really good receivers. They have their quarterback, but they have no defense. So even if they score 30 points per game, their defense will allow 40 points per game. And that's why they missed out on the playoffs last year while having one of the more prolific offenses in the league. So I think right here, especially when you consider the fact that Trey Hendrickson is most likely being traded. Now, he's requested a trade. Doesn't mean he's actually going to get traded. But I do think that they're going to go ahead and at least have insurance here. And even if they don't have insurance, or even if they don't, even if they do extend Trey Hendrickson, I think they're going to want to draft his replacement sooner rather than later. I think Mike Green here is going to be that guy for them. Or at the very minimum, even if they do extend Trey Hendrickson, it'll be a 1-2 combo and at least shore up that defensive line, because Lord knows they need it. They need to be able to get to the quarterback. They need to be able to at least have some semblance of a defense, unlike they did last year. So now we are with Seattle. A very interesting position because as of, yesterday, I think it was, they no longer have a quarterback. They only have, actually, no, they don't even have Drew Lock. What the hell? Who do they have? I don't even know who their backup is. They got rid of Geno. Now, could they trade up for a quarterback, or could they go after a Sam Darnold, or they could go after an Aaron Rodgers? Probably not. In this scenario, they probably don't. And I think this is so crazy. PFF's rankings are all over the board. But I think this is where they're going to go with probably my favorite quarterback in the draft, Jackson Dart. Please, Seattle. This guy is going to be good. If you want your team to have success, take Jackson Dart. Now, I know you're trading away freaking DK Metcalf too. I know you requested a trade. You let go of Tyler Lockett. I think, once again, same thing with the other teams. They can go ahead and address that in free agency. They can go ahead and address that in the later parts of the draft. I think they'll be fine with that. I don't think Shador Sanders and Cam Ward are worth trading up for. Take Jackson Dart. He's perfect at that pick. He's going to turn your franchise around. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. Another team that has problems on the defense. And honestly, since 2020, they've just had problems in the secondary. Their defensive line's always good. You know, they have Vita Vea. They have a few guys on the defensive line. But their secondary is always lacking. Hey, let's put an end to this. Go ahead and draft Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Solve your cornerback issues, at least a little bit. Please do something to work on it. And stop letting up 38 points or 40-something points to the Falcons and Kirk Cousins will end up getting benched. Maybe that'll actually win you some games. But I think that's where they're going to go here. Go ahead and shore up their cornerback position and continue to work on their defense because they need help there. Their offense is fine. You know, they could go guard. They could go, defensive line, sure. But their secondary needs some help as well. Now you got the Denver Broncos here who have their quarterback. I mean, they have Bo Nix who turned out to be very solid. So at least there's that. But, I think Bo Nix is going to need a bit more help than just what he has in Cortland Sutton, who also is getting old too. They have a few other guys, Marvin Mims, but none of these guys really scream wide receiver one. They don't scream wide receiver one like Luther Burden, man. Luther Burden, who for some reason I'm hearing about he's falling even as far as to pick freaking 32 or whatever, or 31 to the Chiefs. If they get their hands on Luther Burden, man, I'm going to be so pissed. But I think the Broncos here stick at that pig. They go ahead and get Luther Burden, end up taking arguably the best receiver in this draft. And they run away with having Sean Payton as their head coach, Bo Nix as their quarterback, and his super new wide receiver one, Luther Burden III. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who better please extend Justin Fields. Please at least give the boy a chance. You got Mike Tomlin there. He looked pretty solid throughout the season before you benched him, which I don't think they should have benched him in anyways. But regardless, man, I think they should have kept Justin Fields in the rest of the season. But a different discussion here. I didn't know they said they need quarterback, which I guess they do technically. But when they re-signed Justin Fields to be all right. Wide receiver, I don't think they go Amika here. I think they have George Pickens solid. I mean, they could use another receiver in there. I know they've been trying to trade for Ayuk. I think they will, actually. I think they will end up trading for Ayuk. I think the 49ers are kind of tired of Ayuk's contract, too. So if they want him, they can go ahead and take him. So I don't think they take wide receiver here. It's going to be interesting to see what else they'd want to do. And you got Najee Harris as a free agent. I don't think they re-sign him either. And I don't think Jaylen Warren is a running back number one in this league. So I think, and this is going to be sort of the controversial pick here, I actually think they go Amarian Hampton. I think they actually go ahead and take a good running back who should probably be falling to the second round, but he's also, I wouldn't be mad if he went 21st overall as well to the Steelers. Get Justin Fields in there as well. Read options like crazy. Have a good offense for once. Your defense is always good. You're like the Bears, just amazing defenses, but no offense for a while now, ever since the glory days of Ben Roethlisberger. But since that, man, it hasn't been that good. Now you've got the Los Angeles Chargers, who got absolutely destroyed against the Texans. Probably should have made it a lot farther than they did. And this is a team that probably could have actually drafted Amarian Hampton. And if he doesn't go to the Steelers, he probably goes here because they don't have anybody at running back. They don't have Gus Edwards anymore because they cut him. They don't have, I forgot the name of their other guy why am I blanking on who the other running back was? But he was only on a one-year deal. J.K. Dobbins, there you go. J.K. Dobbins, he was on a one-year deal. And he is a free agent now, so I don't think they're going to re-sign him either. So they do need a running back, but they'll probably go ahead and maybe take another free agent running back here. And I think for this team, this is interesting, man. But I think they go Colston Loveland. I think Justin Herbert needs more weapons. Actually, matter of fact, no. I'm switching this. Take Amika. They have, I know, Quentin Johnston. They drafted him in the first round. They went ahead and got Ladd McConkey. I'm going back and forth on this. I'm taking Colston Loveland. I think they've invested a little too much in the wide receivers, and I think they go ahead and finally get their tight end in the future. Colston Loveland is a really good receiver, as a tight end, and you go ahead and spread the ball around, give guys like Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnston, guys who can go ahead and have decent games if, they're not the main target out there, kind of be his security blanket. And especially with what's his face? With Jim Harbaugh, I think he played with Colston Loveland. If he's been there for more than a year, then he probably knows him. I think he probably goes there. Now, the Green Bay Packers. Honestly, the Packers should take a punter here. In all seriousness, they should definitely take a kicker with their 23rd pick. I wish they would. They're not going to do that. But the Packers obviously should take a wide receiver, since I don't think they're going to trade for DK Metcalf. And they have not drafted a wide receiver in the first round since I don't even know when. Probably since I was born. Maybe since I was a baby, to be honest. I think that finally ends here, though. I think a team is finally recognizing that they need a wide receiver one. Jaden Reed is good. Dubes is solid. Christian Watson's solid, but none of them are kind of like the Steelers. They don't have anybody, kind of like the Broncos. They don't have anybody that really screams wide receiver one. And I think with a guy like a Emeka Egbuka, I think they can go ahead and finally have their true wide receiver one. I hope they don't. I hope they go ahead and take a punter. We'll see. Definitely not going to happen. But now we got the Minnesota Vikings, who also should take a kicker too, so I might as well just go ahead and do that for them. Go ahead and take Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm just kidding. They're not taking him. But I think as well, they have O-line issues here. I think they go ahead and take Tyler Booker at guard, probably arguably the best guard in this draft, best interior lineman in this draft. Tyler Booker is a really good player, and I know he didn't do so well at the Combine, but once again, the Combine is a bit overrated. I don't think they should go ahead and have that be the main thing for them. Tyler Booker, man, you are a Minnesota Viking, and I wish I didn't have to say that, but that probably is the case. And the Texans will be really pissed because they probably wanted Booker as well, but it's okay because they'll go ahead and get Gray Zabel. They need offensive line help. And honestly, besides the Bears, they were probably the second worst offensive line in the league. They need someone to be able to help out CJ Stroud. They need an offensive line. Whether he plays guard, whether he plays center, they need all the interior help they get. They already have Lermy Tunsil, who wasn't good last year, but he's still solid when he can be. I think he should do just fine for them. Jeez, I know my voice is kind of getting to me already. But now we've got the LA Rams here, who have had a little bit of problems on the defense, and they re-signed Matthew Stafford, so good for them. They're getting rid of Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is kind of on his way out. I think they're just pretty much done with him. I think they're going to cut him, honestly, which is going to be unfortunate for them because they probably could have been able to get at least a 4th or 5th round pick from. Who knows? Either way, Cooper Kupp is most likely going to get traded or cut. I think he's going to get cut. And in his replacement, they're going to go ahead and replace him with Matthew Golden and get the speed that they need that they didn't have from Cooper Kupp. And hopefully push for another Super Bowl. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But you've got the Baltimore Ravens here, who probably should have won it all last year with how they played, but they didn't because Lamar Jackson just sucks in the playoffs. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but they just can't do anything in the playoffs, man. This is kind of weird for them. And I think for this team, you could go a number of directions here. Now, I know their wide receivers are not the best, and I know they just re-signed Ronnie Stanley to a 3-year, $60 million a year deal. I'm not too sure how their right tackle spot is, but I don't think they go right tackle here. This is going to be a very interesting move for them. I think they could go and try to shore up their defense a little bit more. They could go edge here. They could go maybe offensive line. This is going to be a tough one. It's really going to depend on who's on the board. And I think they're going to do really well with having a defensive lineman in Kenneth Grant. He's going to be amazing for them. They can never have too many good defensive linemen. They probably make some moves in there. And honestly, I wouldn't blame them if they went ahead and grabbed a Kenneth Grant, especially in their division where you need to get after the quarterback. You have guys like Joe Burrow in there. You're going to have a Justin Fields who is very fast. Kenneth Grant is very fast for his size, so I think they'll go ahead and draft him. The Detroit Lions should take a quarterback here. They should probably take the worst quarterback, which is DJ, whatever the hell that name is, and just call it a day. If I'm a Lions fan, this is exactly what I would do. I'm just kidding. I hate the rest of this division. But I think they're going to go ahead and once again, they're a team that is sort of in the same position as the Bears when it comes to defensive line. They have their star pass rusher. Obviously, we don't have an Aiden Hutchinson. I wish we did. But they do have him, but they don't have anybody else on the other side. And I don't think they're going to really go after anybody in free agency. I know they re-signed one of their guys, their own, I forgot his name, Marcus Davenport. But he's not a main edge one. He's not. He's a rotational piece. So I think right here, they're actually going to go with, who could they go here? They could go Nick Scorton. They could go Michael Williams. I don't think Michael Williams is probably good in their scheme. But with Dan Campbell, man, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Williams ends up going to the Detroit Lions. I know he's been mocked to go a lot higher, but honestly, man, he's just not that good. His win rate was terrible. Michael Williams is probably my second least favorite prospect in the first round, other than this guy right here, Kelvin Banks. Now we've got Washington Commanders here who need to fix up their defense, man. Their defense was god-awful last year. I mean, god-awful. They need to go ahead and do something with that defense. And I think here they could go a number of directions. I know they re-signed Bobby Wagner, but, dude, this guy's going to be a beast. Go ahead and take your boy Jihad Campbell, man. I know you guys got something, I know you need to go ahead and fix your defensive line, but, man, take Jihad Campbell, bro. He is a great linebacker. They go ahead and address defensive line through a trade or through free agency. Maybe Trey Hendrickson ends up over there in Washington. Really hope that doesn't happen, but maybe that's what they do. But take the linebacker, man. Bobby Wagner's probably got a couple more years left in him before he calls it quits for his career. So go ahead and take his replacement, Jihad Campbell, who already has the physical attributes, is already a first-round talent. Go ahead and have him pick Bobby Wagner's brain as a star linebacker and have him learn behind a future Hall of Famer. And then there you go. You have your own Bobby Wagner for the next 10, 15 years. Now you've got the Buffalo Bills, who also have a bit of issues under defense. They were atrocious, actually, under defense. So if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm going one of two directions here. You can either go Trey Amos, who was very good at Ole Miss, or you could take Nick Emmanwori, who blew up the combine, who was a 6'3" absolute stud safety. And honestly, I think that's what they go. Nick Emmanwori. I can't ever say that last name. That dude is an athletic specimen. And I think Sean McDermott, especially him being a defensive head coach, I think he can go ahead and coach up Nick and make him a star safety. He's been comped as a sort of Derwin James type player. I think he's going to be that good. Now you got the Kansas City Chiefs, who, thank you, Kansas City, for giving us Joe Thuney. We are very appreciative of that. Unfortunately, that also means that I think they're going to go ahead and probably take Josh Simmons. Now, Josh Simmons could go a lot higher in this draft, but I think if you go ahead and look at some of the teams and what they need, I think also the injury kind of scares off some teams as well. And unfortunately, it would be so much of the Chiefs for them to have just this sort of luck to be able to go ahead and take a guy like Josh Simmons in this first round, and he would be an amazing player. So I think they're going to be able to take him, and yeah, they're going to have a really good tackle for years to come. And maybe you could switch him, switch the other guy to guard or whatever, but I think they go ahead and take Josh Simmons in there. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know why they put need as a wide receiver for them, because they do not need a wide receiver at all. They don't need a wide receiver. Come on. Are you kidding me? They have Devontae Smith. They have A.J. Brown. They have Jahan Dotson. They have a really solid receiving core. I don't think they go that direction. I think actually looking at this whole lineup here actually would be pretty good for them to go ahead and take Kelvin Banks. And you kind of solidify sort of their offensive line because Mekhi Becton is leaving. Lane Johnson is getting a bit older. So you have sort of your guy to play, either right tackle or guard. And I think Kelvin Banks, who is my least favorite prospect in this draft, is at least, pick 32 worthy. And if anyone could do it, it's whoever their offensive line coach is, because they work wonders out there. So that is my 2025 first round mock draft. Obviously, this is before free agency, so we have no idea how the draft is going to go. Trades could happen. Players can sign with certain teams, which switches their, their plan at the draft. So we have no idea, but this is sort of what I would think is going to happen based on what maybe could happen in free agency versus what they're going to need in the draft going into the draft. And yeah, some of these are very unlikely. Some of these, are pretty obvious. I think Abdul Carter and Cam Ward. I think these top three are pretty obvious are going to happen. After that, it kind of becomes a little shaky. This is obviously wishful thinking for the Bears for Mason Graham. But let me know what you guys think of this draft, man. Do you think this is at least somewhat accurate? Probably not, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Bear down, I'm out.